to Formative Assessment, your webinar at 3:30 on Thursday, October 20th. Okay, first of all, Formative Assessment. Well, let me introduce myself. I'm Tiffany Langston. I teach at Rowlett High School and I teach ESL. And I'm working with Miss Courtney Carr-Baker, who is moderating today. It does say that Tiffany Langston is moderating. I'm just logged in over there. But she's available to take any questions as I'm talking about formative assessment. Okay, what is formative assessment? It's formal and informal. Formal would be your testing, multiple choice questions, any type of, do you want to know if they've, learned the skill that you're teaching them? I think informal is more important. I think a daily informal formative assessment is one of the most important things you do in a classroom. I was reading about formative assessment last year, and I was reading an article, and some person said, we have to slow down to hurry up. And I feel like that's very true for formative assessment. I feel like we need to slow down and make sure they have the actual skill. So whatever skill you're teaching, whatever TEK you're teaching for that day, you're able to check for understanding. Important, you get to check for understanding. You get to gauge where your students are in the lesson and have true, honest feedback. Do they know the skill? And it also can highlight the gaps that you have or that students have in the skill. And then of course you can test the skill. Very important. Something that I like to use in my classroom, and I used it in my AP Lit classroom, and this year I'm using it in ESL. It can be used in any classroom. It's Padlet. Padlet is my favorite because it's like our favorite Post-it note with technology. I've been teaching short answer response, and so at the end of the class period, I just wanted to make sure that they kind of got the gist of what was happening for the day. And I asked the question, what are three steps to answering a SAR question? And, they can immediately respond. They can put their names on it, or they can just put their ID numbers on it if they don't want to have their names there. And then just give me some quick feedback. And so I have instant access. I shared the link on their Google Classroom. It was super easy, very user-friendly. You can customize, you can do different backgrounds. You can add pictures, so for some of the younger students, possibly they could add an image that would answer a question. Great for exit tickets, great for informal class discussions. Also, I've used it as a form of research to share in a class discussion. So kids were responsible for researching an assignment and then researching an article and then putting in the most important information. And then we were able to compile a list so that they could start writing about the topic they were researching. It's very easily accessible. And the kids they really enjoyed it. It's all about kind of diversifying for their needs, and they like a little something different. Post-it notes are great sometimes, but I think using technology and allowing them, especially if you're in the high school classroom, allowing them to use their iPads for some informal formative assessment. Padlet is easy to add a link. You can they have a QR code readily available. You can embed it in your Google Classroom, or you can send it through email. All right, I'll take some questions at the end if you have any questions about Padlet, and so I'll just move on through several of the other assessments that I use. Go Formative. Now this is something new that I started last week actually, because someone sent me a link and showed it to me, and I really like it because it is so easy. First of all, if you just need to know at the end of class what the students, what they came away with from your classroom, they have ready, pre-made, check for understanding little quizzes that you can give them. You can sign in through your Google link. The kids, you just give them a classroom code and you give them the pre-made assessment, which you see on the screen right now. Describe 3 things we learned in class today. And it gives them an opportunity to type that and to submit that to you. Draw something. I think that's interesting. It's always great for the kids to be creative. I like the short answer response about what they've learned rather than anything multiple choice, or giving the kids an opportunity to write is incredibly important. And I don't care what subject you teach or what grade you're teaching, they need to be writing. Check for understanding. These Go Formative is a very quick way to check for understanding at the end of the lesson or at the end of the class period. And then you can decide, where you need to go with the lesson and the skill. Okay. Go formative. So the next slide I have is just an example of what the self-evaluation looks like. I think we always should keep our students in check, and what are they doing in a class? Make them responsible for their learning. So they can say they get it, they sort of get it, they didn't get it, and then they can tell you like what they can and cannot do at this point. And then also in number 3, it says create an example or explain something we learned. They decide and can let you know what they've learned for the class that day. Instant feedback, good for you. You can create your lessons, based on their feedback. And it's very easy to use, one of the easiest ones. Okay, Google Classroom. I hope, especially if you're teaching high school, that we all have our classes on Google Classroom. It's very easy to use. You can just log in with your Google account. But for formative assessment, you can create a question and the kids can respond to that question, and so you just get immediate feedback on the classroom. It tells you, it actually sends you an email that says this kid responded, or you can go to your classroom and it will show all of the kids that that created a response, and it shows their response, of course. They have different options. They have multiple choice, they have short answer. Again, short answer is your best bet when it comes to, having the kids write. It's so important for them to write. Okay. One advantages for Google Classroom. So all the classes are in one place. It's paperless. Paperless is good. Easy grading. Assignments and directions are readily available. Kids have access to it. If they're out, if you're out, they can get on very quickly. Create a question feature is just a great way for them to recall and check for understanding. How you can submit grades for your Google Classroom for your assignment. So you also can give the kids instant feedback as well. That's important when assessing their work, so that they know what they're doing and what they need to fix, and you are not spending a lot of time going through all the papers. It's just quick instant feedback is good for them. Okay. Other formative assessment tools. So I don't have all of the windows open for these, but I wanted to talk about each of these just very quickly before we stop the webinar. Formative is live and interactive. So it is not something that you would have them do at the end of the day or at the, I think Formative would be best used at the beginning of the class period. You can log in with your Google link. It gives you a Google link for your email. It's live and interactive, and you pose a question to the kids in class. So I think it's at the beginning of class, it works really well. So you pose a question at the beginning, and you can do true, false, you can do multiple choice, and it just shows like where they are, how many percentage of the class get it, or how many don't get it, or how they're answering it. And so it just helps immediately with formative assessment give kind of gauge where you need to go with a lesson, what they know, what they actually know. Kahoot, what I love about Kahoot, it's live and interactive immediately now, and the kids love Kahoot. It's fun, it's bouncy, there's quirky music, it's just really interactive, and actually we use it on adults at the beginning of the school year, and they like it as well. But it is a great way to assess for formative assessment, for informal and for formal in the end. What I like about Kahoot is they also have pre-made Kahoots. So like whatever topic, whatever subject that you're teaching, they usually have one made that you can edit and just add your own features or delete things if you want to delete things. Let's see what else I had on there. Okay, you do have to just log in regularly with your email. There's not a fancy Google link, but it's super easy, and you can use the entire class. Okay, Recap. Recap app is where students actually can you pose a question and they pose a video, like they post a video response, so they can use their iPads, post a video response to if they get it, if they don't get it. Recap has a little thumbs up, thumbs down option, and the kids like using that. The little kids like using that. And so quickly like what skill, what teak is working. Okay, And Google Forms. Of course, Google Forms working very well with Google Classroom. You can create a test, you can create quick answers, quick questions, short answers, many things that you can do with Google Forms, and attach it to Google Classroom. The grades, you can have it self-grade if you have multiple choice questions, just anything that you want. And as far as just being able to use technology, the kids really can use it well. They're used to it, they like it, especially, I mean, I teach in the high school environment, so I'm not going to speak for middle school or elementary, but they're tech savvy with some of these things, and so they enjoy using the forms. So if you can create a test with Google Forms, it's just something different than the paper, and so maybe that will help them, or they'll pay more attention to it, you know, the variety. That's all I have today for formative assessments. If you have any questions now, I guess now we can take questions if that's okay.
The first question is from Aiden.
Okay.
He wants to know, how do you suggest we use these online assessments if each student doesn't have access to iPads at one time?
If they don't have access to okay, so Aiden says, how are we going to use them if the students don't have access to iPads? All the students in the classroom don't have access to iPads at one time. I don't know. I mean, you have to have the technology, like the formative assessment. You know, maybe you could, you know, the point of the I think our webinar, I3 webinar, is to encourage the use of technology. If you could, you know, borrow whatever classroom maybe has a set, you could do that very quickly. Now, cell phones, they can use their cell phones. I don't know what grade we're talking about, but we didn't have iPads last year, and I had students use their cell phones for Kahoot. So all of it, actually, you can use it for all of it. They were able to get on Google Forms, no problems whatsoever. You just have to have them with cell phones.
And I think his follow-up question was, are these meant to be used as a whole class, these assessments?
Okay, so yes and no. Like some of them you can, you know, like on, it wasn't Kahoot, it was Go Formative, like you can assign it to students. You can assign it as a whole class, you can assign it as, you know, all of your kids that you teach. There's endless options, really.
Okay, Carlos has two questions. His first one is, Google Classroom has assessments, or do we use forms? He wants to know, does Google Forms transfer the grades to the classroom?
Google Forms does transfer the grades to the classroom. Sorry, okay, Carl. I don't know if people can hear you talking. Sorry, but what was the question again?
His first question is, Google Classroom has assessments, or do we use forms? And the second part of his question was, does Google Forms transfer the grades to classroom? Okay,
does Google Forms transfer the grade to classroom? Yes, you can transfer the grade to the classroom. I don't have it on here. I apologize for that, and I don't know how to navigate that yet. But there is the ability to do that. Yes. That it? Thank you for the questions.
And you can just I'll post it.
Okay, and Courtney is going to post a link for the credit for the class. All right. Is that it?
Don't make it out.
Did you get the link on?
Yeah, post it.
Okay, she's posting it. Or trying to post it. Technology is fun. You have to roll with the punches. It's okay.
I just posted it.
Okay, so Courtney's posted the link. And that's all they have to do, right? Is to go through the link.
Just click on the link and go ahead and answer those 2 questions.
Go ahead and click on the link, answer the 2 questions, and you get your credit. All right, thanks for watching and have a great day.